I'm Gloria Strode and welcome to Straightforward. Today we have some wonderful and useful information for you. Joining me is Attorney Jennifer Dunlap. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I have spoken to some people that are very interested in this new outreach that you're trying to do, and it's for a limited time. And so for those individuals that had a run-in with the law at some time in their life, you are pushing a new service. Share that with our audience.
Okay, yes. I started a business. It's called the Second Chance Criminal Record Relief.
Second Chance Criminal Record Relief.
Yes,
okay.
And that's basically to bring awareness to some issues that it's been my experience. A lot of people in our community are having trouble understanding what's on their criminal records. And also having trouble understanding what they can do about it.
Okay.
There have been new laws that have come out recently that give people a remedy where there was no remedy for some scenarios. For instance, if a person pled guilty to a crime a long time ago, their probation is now over, and now they are a convicted felon. Now the law allows a person to petition the court and go back and have that felony removed from their record. Where they just have one felony, now they can move on with their lives.
Okay, so it's like a clean slate. And so that opens the doors for other opportunities.
Right.
Okay.
So in about 2 weeks, now we're able to petition the court. Of course, it does require the consent of the prosecutor. Take the order to the judge, and when the judge signs off on it, immediately that person has all of their rights restored, including their right to bear arms, their rights, of course, to vote, the right to run for political office, and all other civil rights that they would have lost by having a felony on their record. Also, it helps people in job situations. You know, a lot of people go in to apply for a job and they're told that they've been denied because of something on their background.
Right.
But a lot of times they're not told exactly what the problem is. And there's a lot of confusion, I understand, from talking with citizens about how to find out what the problem is, because your employer, they're not going to tell you that. That's
no, they won't.
confidential
They'll just say,
information.
you know, we didn't select you.
Right.
Right.
Right. And sometimes they'll let you know it was something that came back when we did your background check, or you'll know you were doing your background check when you got ultimately denied for that job. So we're finding that a lot of people are able to be gainfully employed and no longer underemployed when they're able to go back, petition the court, and have that felony removed from their record.
Okay. And also having a felony can prevent you from getting into real estate. And you know, some landlords, you know, if they do not just your credit check, they do the background check, and then you might get denied for housing.
Absolutely.
And that's not discrimination, is it?
No, it's not, because being a convicted felon, that's not a protected class. You just can't discriminate against people who are in a protected class, like race or gender
or age,
or national,
or national origin.
I don't know if age is one yet.
Right,
They're kind of working
discriminate.
On that.
Well, they might want. In some places, though, they do have for seniors only. You have to be, you know, 50 or older, or that kind of thing.
Right.
I was just teasing you about that. But there are some other categories of people that might. And I was looking at all this wonderful literature. But there are some other folks that you might can help with this as well.
Absolutely. So we talked about the individuals that just have one felony on their record, and you know, the new laws have allowed them to be able to make some major changes. But also for just individuals that may have had an arrest, it's really important to know the status of your criminal record, to know exactly what's on there, and to be sure that the information has been entered on your criminal record accurately.
Okay.
Because I worked 8 years for the state as a prosecutor, and part of my job with the state was to handle all requests for expungements, which are now called record restrictions. And so in granting or denying those, I also would examine a person's record, and I found that there were a lot of cases where a person had pled to a reduced charge, or either the charge was dismissed, but yet their record still showed an open case with no disposition. And that really does hurt a person when they're trying to get a job.
Because it keeps coming up.
Yes, ma'am. And because the employer doesn't know, well, hey, is this person about to go to prison? What's going on, you know, with them? And it's also something they can't necessarily ask that employee, the prospective employee, about. So I don't know of a way that an individual would know that they have an open case. Individuals can go get a copy of their criminal record, but what they get is typically going to be a purpose code E for employment, which only lists convictions. So if you have an open case out there, that's not going to show up. And so you really have to look a little deeper to find out if there's been an inaccuracy and that charge is still left open, you know, on the record. And everybody should check that.
Right. And so what about the dead docket thing? I read that in your literature. Exactly what is that?
A dead docket is a form of a dismissal. There are several forms of a dismissal. there is a no bill, and that means that your case has gone to grand jury, and the grand jury has returned a no bill and declined to prosecute the case. And so the case ends in a no bill. That's a permanent dismissal. There is a null pros, and that is also a permanent dismissal.
What is that?
Null pros.
Null pros. Okay. So what is that one now?
That is also a permanent form of a dismissal. When the case comes to a certain point where people have to make a decision, say it's trial morning and the prosecution declines to prosecute the case, they can enter a null pros on the case, which is a permanent form of a dismissal. The prosecutor can also elect to enter a dead docket in a case, which is a non-permanent form of a dismissal. Null process can come, dead dockets can come back. It's a closed case in terms of the clerk's office. You will see that they will list it as a closed case. However, it does interfere with a person's ability to obtain a gun permit. A lot of probate courts will deny a gun permit if a person has had their case placed on the dead docket as opposed to null pros or no bill.
Okay.
So that's one issue a lot of people have.
And that's the great thing about you, is that you've had hands-on. You know, we hear a lot of people promoting that they could do that, but you've actually been in the thick of this, and you've done it at a different level. And so now you've moved into private practice.
Yes, ma'am.
And so all of that knowledge that you acquired over the years, you're now moving it into your own private practice so that you can help the citizens, but you understand the process.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, ma'am. And I've seen it from both sides. Before my 8 years with the City of Columbus, I did 4 years before that in private practice on the defense side. So I was able to see and meet with a lot of clients. I understand, you know, what goes on in people's lives and how they come to have these situations.
Right.
But it's important that people have hope and that they understand that, you know, you can do some things and there still may be a way for you to pick the pieces up and move on.
Exactly. Second chances are very important. Restoration. I mean, you know, and for those of us that are people of faith, we really should be, you know, pressing that. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our sponsors at our first break, and then we'll come right back.
All right.
All right. We'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors. Straightforward is brought to you by Chalk by Quincy, introduces Excellence Redefined. Timepieces of the finest technology, luxury, and class with tons of style at chalklifestyle.com. Renal Associates, LLC, a team of physicians dedicated to excellent kidney care with 5 convenient locations to serve you. Stark Avenue, Columbus, Bradley Park, Columbus, Lafayette Parkway, LaGrange, East Burkhalter Avenue, Buena Vista, and Springs Street in Warm Springs. A second chance criminal record relief. Laws have changed in your favor. Attorney Jennifer Dunlap is offering assistance in removing felony and misdemeanor convictions from your record. Services are available for a limited time only. Call Attorney Dunlap today to see if you qualify at 706-405-0393 or visit secondchancelaws.com.
Hypertension, also known as the silent killer, because it often shows no symptoms for years or even decades, affects millions of people, including children and teenagers every year. To people that show signs of hypertension may experience symptoms such as chest pain, shortness of breath, nausea, headaches, blurry vision, and even dizziness. Maintaining weight, regular exercising, and reducing stress are a few ways to prevent hypertension. Act now on preventing hypertension before it's too late.
We're all in this together. When you recognize something isn't right, make the call to the Military Crisis Line at 1-800-273-8255 and press 1.
I was diagnosed on October 25th, 2010.
She was just like an average person, and I guess I just had stereotyped the idea of people who have HIV.
You know, my first reaction was, I'm gonna get through this. I'm not gonna let this define me. I'm gonna be okay.
My best friend has HIV, but that does not define who she is.
Get the facts, get tested, get involved.
And welcome back to Straightforward. I'm continuing my conversation with the awesome attorney Jennifer Dunlap. Jennifer, you have had a great education, wonderful experience, but you're new to private practice, so I just wanted to start off with sharing your background information to our viewers so they'll know that you are top shelf, head and shoulders above the rest, and you have all the skills and training to help them work through this process.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Atlanta. I'm from the east side of Atlanta, from DeKalb County. That's where I grew up. I went away to college at St. Louis University in Missouri, where I have a bachelor's in social work.
Oh, well, so do I.
Yes, ma'am.
30 years. That was my other life. Okay, yes.
And so I always had a heart for people and always, kind of wanted to help out. But I went straight from that bachelor's degree and I enrolled in Georgia State University Law School, where I graduated law school in 2004.
Really?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you look so young, like you're high school, but hold on to that youth, you'll need it. So you didn't get the master's.
That's correct.
You went from the bachelor's into and applied and got into Georgia State Law
Yes,
School.
ma'am.
Okay, so for our young people that's watching, how is that? I mean, what does that require to get into law school?
Well, you have to take the LSAT after, when you're coming up on graduating from your undergraduate studies. You have to take the LSAT, you have to do well on the LSAT, and it basically, based on your LSAT score, is pretty much going to
How
determine.
you will get in.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Georgia State has a very low acceptance rate. I think that's because it's centrally located in Atlanta, and it's a public university, so it has a really good price. If you're going to be in
Yes.
Atlanta, you're either, at the time when I graduated, there was not a John Marshall option. There was only Georgia State and Emory Law. And so, Georgia State's price tag was about $6,000, and Emory, of course, was in the 5 digits.
Yes.
So.
But at the end of the day, you still became an attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what I tell young people. You might go to a HBCU, you might go to a community college. It's not where you start, it's where you finish.
That's absolutely correct.
Yes.
And I was very blessed to get scholarships all the way through school, all the way through college, and then also through law school. I had an assistantship that paid me also per month, so there were no bills from that.
Really?
Yes, so I was blessed, and because of that, I was able to start in public service. A lot of attorneys can't afford to do that. They have
Right.
student loans to pay back.
Yes.
And
they
have
need a
bills.
big paying job,
Yes.
right? They can't do, the social work side, because
Right.
when you go to work for the city or the state, then you're not doing it for the big bucks. You're
Absolutely.
actually doing it for the calling. And so what was your first job?
So my first job was working with the Public Defender's Office here in Columbus.
Really?
It was my goal when I left law school to work with what I saw. I wanted to work in a smaller area with a population that I felt really could use my help, as opposed to the population in Atlanta. There are a lot of lawyers there. They have a lot to choose from.
Right.
So the
And
public
that's your
defenders,
social worker side, married with your attorney side.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so I really wanted to do something to change things, and that was really where my mind was at that time. So I got to Columbus, Georgia, started my first job in February of 2005, right after leaving law school in December of 2004.
Oh my goodness.
And I started working there. I met my husband at the jail, which people always think is hilarious.
He was not in the jail, he
Right.
was working at the jail. Okay,
He was,
that's funny.
A deputy sheriff there. And so we met, and 7 months later we married, and we
Really? He
have
was
been
smitten
here.
with you. Well, he's a very nice guy. He's from a great family. His dad has had a wonderful career in law enforcement, and the community just love Warren Dunlap. So you married good. We can vouch for that. So you met him at the jail. You got married, and
Yes.
you decided that you would just stay here in Columbus.
Yes, ma'am. We decided that we would stay here in Columbus and raise our families. So about 3 years later, we started to have children. But by then, I had already left the public defender's office. I went into a law office where Julia Slater was working.
Okay.
And she decided to run for office a little after I got there. We got to know each other very well. She ultimately won the election for district attorney. And then when she went to the district attorney's office in 2008, well, that's when she won the election. She started January 2009. And I came along with her. I came along in about March of 2009. And from then on, was with the DA's office.
So you went from the defense side as a public defender, very lowly paid. You had a lot of clients.
Yes,
And very few resources.
that's correct.
So you really needed that social worker spirit to kick in to help you, to help those that you were working with at that level,
I would agree.
which is very different from when you got to the DA's office.
That's correct.
Right, because at the DA's office, you had enough pens and paper and that kind of thing. No, because the old social workers, we know, I've worked in a place in DFACS before, you had to bring your own pencils because the budget was so tight. But you did have great experiences with people, and so that helps you to understand the second chance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so one of my primary jobs was to decide those requests for expungement. And where I was in private practice, even doing defense, you really get to know people's stories when you meet them. It's not just like you see people in a file in black and white, and then you have to go fill in the blanks, you know, with your basically your own experience to figure out the whys of things. So by the time I got to the DA's office, I had heard enough of why things happen and sat across from enough crying families to understand the devastation that happens when a person is in crisis and has a felony charge.
Right.
So I, you know, was able to really reach out to people even at the DA's office, and that's something that Ms. Slater always encouraged. If something can come off someone's record, because and let me just say this, expungements are for cases that were dismissed. A lot of people would apply for an expungement and they have a conviction. That does not, you cannot remove a conviction by an expungement. And so those are for cases that are dismissed in some form or fashion, like we talked about, a no bill, a null pros, or a dead docket, or a warrant dismissal. That's what expungement is for. So if a person had any of those scenarios with those dismissed types of cases, Ms. Slater always encouraged me to go ahead and sign off on those, and that's because those people are innocent, and that's how she viewed it. Either you're innocent until you're proven guilty. Exactly. So those are innocent individuals, and there's no reason to not then take something off someone's record
and let them go on with their life.
Absolutely.
Right, because the families suffer. A lot of people don't understand, but if it's the family member can't get a job, then that impacts the significant other, the children, the grandparents. I mean, everybody.
It impacts the entire community.
Yes, it does.
Because if a person is underemployed or they're making money under the
then
table,
they're not contributing to the taxes.
taxes.
Yes, and we certainly want everyone to pay their fair share.
Yes, we do.
Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to take our final break, go to our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Okay, we'll be right back after word from some of our sponsors. Straightforward is brought to you by Warrior Outreach. Contact Command Sergeant Major Retired Sam Rhodes or Kathy Rhodes. Freedom Printing for all of your designer printing needs. Gunboat Plaza, Suite 18. Zeal in Uptown Columbus, where you can enjoy an intimate dinner atmosphere and every entree is chef-inspired with passion. Dinner is served Monday through Saturday, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Howard Johnson Hotel, 1011 Veterans Parkway, Columbus. For an international dinner experience you will never forget. Zeal in Uptown Columbus. Progressive Funeral Home, family owned and operated since 1952. The George Ford legacy of high standards continues today in the compassionate and professional services provided. A touch of dignity for those who care. Progressive Funeral Home, 4235 St. Mary's Road. Trusted by generations. Best Care, transforming minds and bodies, leading the way in the latest techniques of medical weight loss and wellness. Certified in family medicine and bariatrics, Dr. Blunt is ready to assist in the transformation of your mind and body. Call today, 706-221-6477, or visit bestcarecolumbus.com. East Alabama Endocrinology, educating and caring for those living with diabetes in Alabama and Georgia. 1400 Bradley Lake Boulevard, 3320 Skyway Drive, Suite 602, Opelika. Take charge of diabetes and live your best life.
History is important because it shows where you're coming from and where you're going. Type 2 diabetes is something that runs in my family, which means I'm at risk. In fact, 1 in 3 American adults are at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. And knowing this, if I do nothing, that family history becomes my family's future. And my family is too important to me for that. Take the risk factor assessment today at AskScreenNo.com.
I'm Drew Brees, and being a dad means the world to me. And one of the most important things any parent can do is make sure their kids get active at least 60 minutes each day. Studies show that physical activity not only helps kids stay healthy, it can enhance important skills like concentration and problem solving, which can improve academic performance. This means physical activity can help your kids in the most important game of all, life.
TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, provides hope and healing to all who are grieving the death of a loved one who died in military service. Go to TAPS.org to learn more or call 1-800-959-TAPS.
Welcome back to Straightforward. I'm continuing my conversation with the awesome attorney, Jennifer Dunlap. Jennifer, you are going to do great in private practice. The second chance is something that is really needed by, kind of a large portion of the community. People have had run-ins, whether they were teenagers, college students, and sometimes they just don't really understand that everything follows us. And so you have all of that expertise from both sides of the coin, and you're going to put that in place, and then you're going to invite people to your office, and you're going to help them get that all worked out, because we want them to be productive taxpayers is what we want, right? Yes, everybody's paying their fair share. So explain to our audience the difference between the people that had a dead docket or someone that might need a pardon. Are you going to be able to help with that?
Yes, ma'am. We offer a lot of different services that all pertain to a person's background. So a pardon would be something where the individual basically has more than one felony on their record. For the individuals that just have one, I would encourage looking at retroactive first offender. But sometimes, there's been more than one thing. And so for that, we do have pardon applications where basically you apply to the Georgia State Board of Pardons and Parole, and it's a pretty long application process, and it takes a lot of time actually to
And so
get
you
a
will be
decision.
able to help them with that. They will
Yes.
be able to retain you.
Absolutely.
You can have, they can call you and set up an appointment to have a confidential consultation, and that's between the attorney and the client.
That's
it's
correct.
not a public matter.
Right.
And then you are affordable. It's not like, trying to pay a LA lawyer where you need $10 million, as a retainer.
Absolutely. And for pardon packages, because the application, a lot of it is personal information, I encourage people to basically, I provide an application to them. I encourage them to fill it out, and then there's some parts that are just really difficult for a person to complete. For instance, you need a certified copy of every conviction you've ever had, and that can be kind of difficult for an individual to obtain, especially if it's in different jurisdictions. So there's aspects of that I help with, but I try to keep the cost down by encouraging people to fill out as much of it as possible. And then we use a service and have it all put into a nice form so it looks presentable.
It has to be a professional package.
Yes.
And that's the difference. People have to understand, whenever you're doing business, whatever that is, it represents you. If the person is not looking at you, whether it's your resume or whatever, it represents you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We try to make people look as good as possible in black and white. So when someone reads over that with the parole board, they know that you took the time, you care, you really care about your situation, and you're really trying to do something better for yourself. So in addition to the pardon packages, we do also motions to terminate probation early. Now that's something that people who are still on probation under sentence can use. For instance, if an individual has been sentenced to a long term of probation, 20 years of probation or 10 years of probation, well, when those individuals have done well after 5 years, it may be worth showing the judge, okay, this is what this person's been up to. Now they've become a participating member in society, they've turned things around for themselves. There's really no need for an extra 15 years of somebody's job having to be to monitor this individual.
Exactly.
This person's doing
and that
just fine.
saves tax dollars too, because if someone's on probation, then we have state people that are being paid or federal people that have to monitor those individuals that's on probation.
Right.
So that's wise. Actually, I know someone, because they were such a great contributor to the community, that their prosecutor actually put that in for them and to get them off. So you'll be able to help with that.
Absolutely. And then once a person comes off of probation, of course, then that individual, because their sentence is now over, is eligible then to go re-register to vote. So that actually, has a large impact on that as well. So, we need more people voting, and we need more people, participating in civics in our community.
We do. Yes, for all of these services. So tell them where you're located before we run out of time. We want to make sure we get your website in and all of that information as well.
Okay, well, I'm located on Winton Road at 1332 Winton Road. It's kind of across from the Columbus Museum. It's centrally located. I ask people to call me before stopping by.
Right. Need an appointment.
Yes.
They need an appointment.
It would be best to have an appointment. And I have a website that is secondchancelaws.com for people to go online and look at all of the different services that we offer. We touched on a few: the retroactive first offender, the motion to terminate probation early, pardon packages. There's also parole packages. There's also corrective action, which we touched on a little bit earlier with individuals that suspect something may be wrong with their record. And there's so many different ways that occurs. Sometimes the first name and the middle name are swapped. Sometimes someone has used someone else's information. All kinds of different things. But these are all things that I've encountered during my experience, and I know how to sort them all out. Some things take a long time to sort out. Some things can be done with a simple phone call or email.
Right.
But I'll just give you a few other examples of some folks that I've been able to help here recently.
Okay.
Had an individual come see me. He had a deposit account fraud from
Really?
2008, and he has been a convicted felon since that time because of a bad check. He hasn't been able to defend his home with a firearm.
And a lot of people don't understand, to be a convicted felon is really a low bar, especially on the financial side. It's not like billions of dollars. It's a very like hundreds of dollars, and so it could really happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So a bad check, most people think, oh, it's just a bad check, it's no big deal. But that bad check has turned into a convicted felon situation, and now that individual cannot own a firearm, and he lives in the country. He would like to have a shotgun to defend his property,
right?
And he, is not allowed to have that.
Right. I'm glad you use that, because I have told people before, because I think a lot of times people think a convicted felon is somebody that robbed or killed or something like that, and I'm like, no, it's a real low bar. So with that financial, I think that was a great example, and a lot of people need to check to make sure. So you can help people to check to make sure, especially, as people are immature and they don't know how to handle a checking account. I have run into those with young military people. They just one thought he could just keep writing checks because it was checks in the book. But he was young and newly away from home, so it can happen to anybody.
Absolutely.
Okay, so give us your number once again, and your name and your website.
Okay, I'm Jennifer Dunlap. My phone number is 706-405-0393. I can be reached online at secondchancelaws.com. That is my website, and my email is secondchancelaws@gmail.com.
All right, well, we're excited that you are on the ground. You're going to help all the folks in the community. We want to make sure we clean everybody's record so they can get a job. I want you to make a lot of money, and you'll have to come back and share some more success stories.
Yes, ma'am. I'd be happy to.
Thank you so much. This has been Straightforward. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Until next time, be blessed.